What's going on, everybody? You guys must have some good karma coming your way because I'm here releasing all of this information that is so far ahead of the game. So, for the 500 of you or so that are subscribed that are coming here, wow, here's some good stuff for everybody. Let me break down how the brain works, how learning occurs, memories. We're even going to get into this. I try to take the questions everyone has, and instead of just answering one of them, I bind them all together and then I give you the theory and the practice of it. And this is kind of a primer on how to reorganize, rewire your brain. And it's more than that. It's rebooting, it's cleansing and taking out operating systems. It's taking out it's leaving your mainframe as your body and as your mind, because you're not going to change that. But we're getting rid of all of the operating system and the software that is on your brain, so you can understand that how it's really supposed to work. And if anyone's followed along from the beginning, these have kind of gone in a little bit of a sequential order. I know I jump all over the place, but there is a little bit of a sequence to getting to explaining how the brain functions. If you understand, when I've got into cleansing the body and uh, how programming works, how people are underneath spells, how to actually cast spells, how hypnosis works. And these all go into, how you experience your world and how you've been programmed and how you think your brain works. So let me just jump right to the first question someone had, and I'm going to go into um, how the brain actually operates underneath this whole thing. And the first question was about wireless signals. Now, we have to think of it just in the same way. Our body is like a radio in your car. You can turn into certain frequencies. You can tune in. You can, like, when I say turn in, I mean literally turn inside of yourself and you turn into that frequency bandwidth. And what happens is we get entrained. We get on a harmonic with certain stations, literally when we're listening to them. But while being, say, around that frequency, even though it's invisible around you, you could alter your state. So if we looked at it just in the sense of a C note doesn't work with a D note, you could be at a different harmonic as a D note. You could change your breathing pattern. And this, again, like I've said, you've got to kind of get into my other videos, because if I were to put one video together on how this all works, it'd be a week's worth of sitting down and listening. It'd be a week's worth of classes to really understand how this all works. But I'm trying to condense it down so you can all kind of visualize it from the base level blueprints of how the mind and the body works. We have to look at the body differently. We have to look at the mind differently, and how things really, really occur, the underpinnings of reality. And as Tesla said, if you look at frequency and you look at how things, like, just from that level of frequency, meaning how often do things occur? Everybody, everything is frequency. People say this and they give you these charts and graphs, but it comes down to patterning and how often something occurs. And so that occurrence of a brainwave is the same occurrence as something that would happen. Like if you turn your channel on your radio to say 99.5, you're going to hear pop music, and every 10 minutes or every hour you'll hear that same song, and that same song will be 3 minutes and 30 seconds long, and that song will have four riffs in it, and then it'll be a 16 track, and you'll have the hook that will occur 4 times during the song, and it'll hit certain frequencies, and you'll listen to that, and that in and of itself is an even larger overlaying of a set of frequencies. How often something occurs. You get up in the morning at 8 o'clock, you go to work and you listen to that station, and boom, you're into that entrainment pattern. And so now if we look at this on a micro level, on just what's going on right now for you, where you are, what's your entrainment? What is happening for you? What's your surroundings? What's beyond listening to me? What else would you be doing? So If you're sitting in the car and you're listening to a station that you don't want to, you can change that. But you could also change yourself. You could also change what you're receiving. So in the physical manifestation, in the physical environment, you're in a car, you can change that station. That's obvious. But if you're in an environment and you'd like to change what station you're actually listening to, but you don't have a dial in front of you, you can change your breathing pattern. You can change your mudra, what fingers are connected, and you could change, by doing that, you change what brainwave you're on. And now the further point of that is by changing the brainwave you're on, and if you have enough, if you're the biggest gong in the room, if you have the most ground, you could change the environment. You could change the room. Everybody knows when someone walks in a room, you might feel something because they have a lot of power. It might be negative, it might be positive, who knows? But starting at that base level, just by changing your breathing pattern, by changing your brain waves, you actually attune yourself to something different, to a different frequency, to a different even perspective. If you wanted to just look at it from a superficial level, you could change your perspective of how you feel or think about that song. And again, it's about how you feel about something. Remember, your emotions are what's caught up in the song. This goes back to my video I just did yesterday on feelings and emotions and memory. Remember, your feelings are exactly what you feel. Your emotions are what you think about how you feel. And it's connected to the future and the past. So by changing the state that you're in your brain waves, you no longer are attached to that wave, because it's a wave particle duality. Remember this. The wave is the emotion and the particle is the feeling that you have in the moment. And so you can change the particle that you are, meaning to not be entrained within a certain set of vibrations and frequencies, and step outside of that and look at those from a different place. Then no longer are you caught up in the emotional aspect of what those harmonic resonances are. And then you're looking at it from a point of reference, from a third party standpoint, meaning that then you become an observer. You become, that slit experiment. There's a wave and a particle. You become the particle that looks at the wave. And that particle is the feeling of the thing and the feeling, and the wave is the emotion. And you can get into emotions if you like. There's plenty of reason too. There's plenty of reason to be on the wave and participating in that in the present moment. It's binding those dualities. It's the whole idea of why people love surfing, because when they're surfing, they are their own particle and they're actually on the wave. And so they're present in their feelings and they have no emotions about it, but they're feeling the emotion and the feeling all in one. And so I know that's taking it down the line and the furthest point of this, but that's everyone's goal in life. And by doing that, you collapse memory, which means water and light. Mem-ori comes of the Hebrew words water and light. And so it's collapsing that down to a present moment. So you can pull your memory with you through that wave, through death, through life, and you can pull it anywhere you want. And you've contained the wave within the particle that is yourself. And so what does this all have to do with what's going on with the 811 megahertz that's occurring around you? And then you've got the telephone that's on the whatever 900 hertz, and you've got the television, you got all these signals around you. Well, if you wanted to do the math on it, you could. I'm not going to do that right here. It just seems, getting into all the mathematical science of it, there's plenty of people out there that can do this, and the work is pretty simple. You just look at the harmonics and you say the C note is 528 hertz, and then the next level up it's 630 whatever. I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but then you get to the point of, okay, there's something that's on that that runs analogous to that is the next level up in the next octave. And then you get into the smells and you get into the sounds and you get into the colors, and they all have a value, a frequency to them. And so if you have all of these frequencies around you, all you do is change your brainwave. All you do is change your frequency. And then all of a sudden you're not affected by it. Your brain is no longer entrained, entrapped, and controlled and manipulated. It's no longer harmonized. It's no longer hypnotized by a set of frequencies. So getting into this next idea here about memory and how to learn and what your brain really is, You think in pictures. That's all. All the world is image. And those images that you have are of matter and energy. Those are images. And that quality of that energy is really, it's why you can close your eyes and think about something, and you can think about the feeling, not the emotion. You can think about the feeling of how hard a piece of granite is. You can run your hand along it. You could feel that. And you could equally run your hand across a shag rug and feel that. And you feel both of those things, yet you're not doing those. So there's the quality of that. There's the quality of what's occurring. So that's what you have in your mind. And you play that out here in 3D, which is the present moment, which you get from your astral body, from your second self, from outside of body, and you put it here, and that's advanced level. But as you're experiencing it right now in your mind, you experience these feelings that you have of your imagination, which is your matter, your energy, and the quality of it. So by using your mind from the point of looking at images, knowing that the words are, this is why words can become confusing and why you can trip over them, why they're stumbling blocks at times, because people are trying to look for words. They're trying to use words, but the word is only a delivery system for an experience. It's a story. It's always a story, and words can only give you an analogy for what the matter, the energy, and the quality is. You can have gnosis and you can have experience. You can have all of these things inside of you, and there's no way to really convey that to someone. There is by using compassion in your heart and throwing out what is actually feelings. But when we're using words, we have to realize that it's a secondary thing. When they say in the beginning there was the word, that's not completely true. In the beginning there just was you, but then the beginning meaning the beginning of the story, the beginning of memory. So to transfer memory to someone, there's a few ways to do it, but the technique that we use in this reality comes about through the use of words. You could do it by touching someone. You could do it by never saying a word, and that's next level stuff, and that's actually original level stuff. That's ancestral stuff. It's what a baby does. You know exactly what a baby's going through, what a baby's feeling, what a baby wants, but there's no constructed language. It's all an organic, feeling based system. But then we put this in the beginning. There was the word. No, the beginning of the story, so that we could all come together in a mass, agreed upon hallucination of a storyline that we put together using language. Because the language is secondary. The language is just a chopped up, divided, angular construct of what the whole entire zero is. We took a zero, which is everything, divided it up into 360 degrees, and we called it a bunch of letters as well. We called it 26 letters or 52 letters or 52 weeks in a year, whatever you want to describe it as. But these words, these letters, these angles, they're called the gods. These are the demigods. These are the secondary units of information that we use to describe something. So we get to go into our minds and grab onto and collect information of words, formations of words, of sentences, structures, of letters, and put them into and take all of these puzzle pieces and put it together to design something for someone. But what we get, what we started with was the image. And by re-familiarizing yourself with the actuality of how you experience the world through picture and through feeling about those pictures, the images and the feeling that you have, by immersing yourself and understanding what that is, then you can go to the next level. But if you don't know that that's where the world starts, that's where your experience is, that's where you can draw from. Until you get to that point to be able to draw from that, then there's nothing you can share. There's nothing you can do. This is why people have a hard time speaking because they're trying to use the language, thinking the language is the thing. So, by accessing our brain and using our brain the way it should be used, the way it was originally used, by knowing that it comes through pictures, comes through images, we can start to get to the source, the even before the hardware of the computer. By using this idea of what a computer is, we just have to clean out everything that's in the computer, clean out everything that's in your mind, and we can do this multiple ways. And it's not just about going and doing memory exercises and doing all of these visualization things, because these visualizations, as good as they are, as good as these ideas are, if you don't have a clean board, if you don't have a blank slate, if you don't have a still water, if you don't have clean water, meaning if you look up at that board and when you're in third grade and the teacher has writing all over it and they go to write more on it, wow, how could anybody decode and see that? How could you? It would be confusing. And so in your mind, you have a bunch of words and language and programs and software that have already, overtaken, overrun the system. They're all loaded up. And when you need to reboot everything, and to do that, you need clean water. You need to clean your brain out. So this idea of even what Alzheimer's is and what happens to the brain and short-circuiting ideas in your mind through the salts and heavy metals that are in there. Well, this is what's happening. You're actually, that light bulb in a short circuit, you either burn it out or it doesn't work, because what's happened is your energy never made it to that. So if you thought of that as like a light bulb going off in your head, you're going to short circuit that. If there's a piece of salt there, if there's a piece of heavy metal or soft metal, whatever you'd like to call it, it's going to jump that arc prior to getting that light, and you're going to go through that same cycle, popping, blowing out bulbs. So you need to clean all that out, and that's the first thing, to give yourself a blank slate, a clean hard drive, so then you can load on. And in fact, you barely are even loading on programs. You're just getting to the source code, which is the imagination, and then you can start to overlay language the correct way and realize that this use of gematria is one thing, linking numbers to letters, but then underneath that, there's always the image that occurs. So in the same way that if you go to the gym and you do the same exercise over and over again, it doesn't mean you're going to have a holistic, strong system. If you go and you don't do the exercise correctly, you're going to damage yourself. You're going to put yourself in a bad position. And if you don't use your mind right, if your mind has been on a program, a set of instructions that tell you to eat unhealthy food and to think in a certain way and to have emotions about things that aren't correct, then of course you're going to age yourself. Of course you're going to damage your brain. And all these things will be an outpouring. And you'll see it in the way that you experience reality. So by dumping everything, dump the whole system, and start at the beginning of looking at things through the three truths of how you experience reality: the matter, the energy, and the quality of those things. So it's your imagination and the literal feeling that you have right now. How does your butt feel sitting on that chair? How does that feel? Not what do you think about the fact that you're sitting in a chair and that chair probably shouldn't have been put there and it's made of material that isn't healthy for the environment. It's causing you a backache. No, none of that. How does it feel to sit in that chair? What is the sound of what's happening outside? What else do you feel? That's it. That's it right there. You start there. And what's the visualization? If your eyes are open, you look around you and look at everything. You make no comment on what you think it is. But if you close your eyes, it's an easier place to get to. This gets into meditation. Medication and meditation. It's quite the same. And so by getting into a meditation, you change your brain waves. You change your brain waves. You cleanse out your system. And now you're not on those harmonics anymore. And you can repattern yourself. You can still the water in your mind, change the frequency, and then you're no longer running a parallel pair of L's. You're not running the same angle as something else. And so you don't get entrained by it. So here's a little side note, and it's not even really a side note. It has to do with everyone's use of iron and believing in calcium and all these other things. If you look at what the molecule for the for your blood is versus what a plant has for blood, meaning the chlorophyll, one is red and one is green. One has magnesium inside and one has iron. We can see that plant life is living, and it's an organic magnesium. That whole system is alive, and it's blood. This, if you get into a couple other videos I did about Iron Man and a couple things. So we talk about what Iron Man is. Iron is magnetic. Iron can be pulled by the moon, by magnets. Iron rusts. So we need to think about what we're consuming to change the structure of our blood plasma, and then certain things happen between a living implosive system and a rusting decaying system. So in closing here, I hope this was a good exercise, a good rebooting of the way that you think about what your brain is, what your body is, and how you experience reality. And from here, I'll get into what we can do to start to retrain your brain properly. And along this path, you're going to need to unload, detox, and get rid of what's in there already in a physical format. And then by getting rid of the physicality, the memory, the ghost of it will vanish as well. The thought of it will vanish as well. And so we'll start to rewire and reboot and reload programs into your brain that will allow you to learn at a faster rate, because you'll be learning from your senses. You'll be learning from your feelings. So if you learn from sensing and feeling, rather than learning from rote learning and repetition, meaning to learn in a way that just patterns something in until it becomes a record, a record, so it's got a divot in it, and so that's just there. By learning through senses and experiences, you're actually learning in real time, and you're learning in a very fluid way that allows the water to be what it should and the light to be what it should, rather than grinding in pattern recognition into the brain that literally serves as closed circuits through salts and metals to turn your brain into something that looks like an Alzheimer's patient. By putting, and anybody that's got Alzheimer's, by flooding your brain with water and getting the heavy metals out of it and doing exercises, getting out in the sunshine, you can reverse these things. And you can get outside of the ideas that are clogging up your brain, that are causing it to, as salt, everybody knows, if you put salt on meat, it preserves it by pulling out the water. It dehydrates it. So someone has Alzheimer's. Their brain is dehydrated. It's sucked all the liquid out of it, just like the rest of your body. And so you've short-circuited things. So by getting out of that and getting into the organic way of learning through feeling and through experience of something, and by hydrating your brain, your brain stores memory inside of the water, and the water is the containment vessel for the light, and it's fluid and it can go anywhere and move. But if you put a piece of salt in there and you want these little digital systems to control and archon and architect your brain, there's no fluidity, there's no movement. It will rust. It will decay. So this is about moving to an organic variety of learning. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll chat soon.